Well, welcome everyone here to ULT San Diego this afternoon for the Aquarian series. The title of today's presentation is Creative Altruism, and this will be given to us by Dr. Barbara Hebert. So before we get started, a reading. This from the voice of the silence. Wouldst thou become a yogi of time's circle? Then, Olanu, believe thou not that sitting in dark forests, in proud seclusion and apart from men, believe thou not that life on roots and plants, that thirst assuaged with snow from the great range, believe thou not, O devotee, that this will lead thee to the goal of final liberation. Think not that breaking bone, that rending flesh and muscle unites thee to thy silent self. Think not that when the sins of thy gross form are conquered, O victim of thy shadows, thy duty is accomplished by nature and by man. The blessed ones have scorned to do so. The lion of the law, the Lord of mercy, perceiving the true cause of human woe, immediately forsook the sweet but selfish rest of quiet wilds. From Aranyaka, he became the teacher of mankind. After July had entered the nirvana, he preached on mount and plain and held discourses in the cities to devas, to men, and to gods. So kindly acts, and thou shalt reap their fruition. Inaction in a deed of mercy becomes an action in a deadly sin. Thus saith the sage, shalt thou abstain from action? Not so shall gain thy soul her freedom. One must reach self-knowledge, and self-knowledge is of loving deeds, the child. We now give to you our very own Dr. Barbara Hebert.
Thank you so much, Monica. What a beautiful, beautiful quote. Voice of the Silence, I think, is my favorite. I read a little bit of it every night and try to spend time contemplating. So I am so happy to be here with all of you. It is a joy and a pleasure. When I get the announcements of the Saturday meetings, I always think, oh, that's wonderful, I'm going to go. And inevitably, I end up with grandchildren. So I apologize that I am not here with you all on a weekly basis, but my heart is. My heart is. I will say that the topics offered in the Aquarian series are amazing. The titles are simple, and yet there is a depth of complexity with each and every single one of them. It reminds me of that quote that probably many of us have heard, that theosophy offers shallows in which a child can play and depths in which a giant can swim. I would like to go ahead and share my PowerPoint really quickly here with you all. Right. Just want to make sure I don't hit the wrong thing. So, the topic of creative altruism offers us a wide-ranging spectrum of topics to talk about, to explore as students of the Ageless Wisdom. But it makes sense to begin with the concept of altruism. Now, we know the dictionary meaning. Merriam-Webster's online dictionary says that it is unselfish regard for, or devotion to the welfare of others. But we know that there's a deeper meaning that is typically discussed in theosophical circles. That's not going to do it. So I need to do this. Sorry, I thought I could hit enter and it would go, but it's not.
Yeah, the arrow keys will work.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. So, quoting from the article, True Theosophical Service, written by Dorothy Bell, we read, as a principle, altruism expresses the true root meaning of the words theos and Brahma, the motion of expansion from within outwardly, which is also associated with the outbreathing of the great breath. It means giving unconditionally to the whole from within outwardly. It realizes the unity, the wholeness and unity of all. And every moment of that realization of wholeness is open and generous and all embracing. It is compassion, love, gentleness, kindness, and the full expression of who we truly are. We're reminded of the quote by Thich Nhat Hanh. Inner being is the understanding that nothing exists separately from anything else. We are all interconnected. By taking care of another person, you take care of yourself. By taking care of yourself, you take care of the other person. Happiness and safety are not individual matters. If you suffer, I suffer. If you're not safe, I am not safe. There is no way for me to be truly happy if you are suffering. If you can smile, I can smile too. The understanding of interbeing is very important. It helps us to remove the illusion of loneliness and transform the anger that comes from the feeling of separation. As students of the ageless wisdom, we understand the concept of inner being and the altruistic actions connected with it. However, it is not enough simply to understand it. We actually have to look at it far more deeply. All right. So in in volume 1 of Lucifer, HPB tells us, he who does not practice altruism, he who is not prepared to share his last morsel, is no theosophist. And in the foreword to the ULT pamphlet number 17, we're told real theosophy is altruism, and we cannot repeat it too often. In Echoes of the Orient, Judge tells us theosophy is altruism, and altruism is the key to the door of the inner life. What these leaders are telling us is that altruism is not an option if we consider ourselves theosophists. Altruism is not simply a concept to understand or a virtue to acquire by the personality, but rather it is rooted in action here on this physical plane of existence. We must not just think or feel. We must do, because it is who we are. Altruism is the spiritual path and provides us with a direct connection to our higher selves. Although there is that connection, we must implement altruism in our physical world. In the September 1888 issue of The Path, Judge tells us altruism must be made the aim of life, or all practices are absolutely void of lasting effect. He says, we do not speak from a mere theory, but from experience. Nor do we claim to have perfected altruism in ourselves, but only that, as far as possible, we are trying to make altruism the rule of life. Continuing along these same lines, HPB in the Key to Theosophy tells us altruism is an integral part of self-development. We see the importance of altruism in our lives as theosophists, both from a spiritual perspective and a mundane perspective. But where does creativity come into play? So, for our exploration today, we can look at creativity as emanating through spiritual will and implemented through karma. Will is the spiritual force that creates karma and drives our spiritual evolution. In Echoes of the Orient, Judge tells us, the will is the force of the spirit the will is the force of the spirit in man. It is that which directs his thoughts and actions. And when purified and strengthened, it becomes the creative power by which he builds his future. De Perucker tells us, the divine will is the urge to become, the hunger to grow, the impulse to evolve. It is the creative breath of the cosmos. And clearly, it is through this urge to grow, this divine discontent, that karma comes into play. In Sanskrit, the root word kri means, as you probably all know, to do, to make, to act, to perform, to accomplish. It forms the root of words we use, such as karma and kriya. From an esoteric perspective, this is where creativity seems to be linked to altruism and the admonition to do. It is through kri, making, acting, doing, performing, that we inculcate altruism into our lives. As students of the ageless wisdom, we know that everything we think, feel, do, and say is intrinsically linked to our karma. We create karma every second of every day of our physical incarnations. We also know that karma is much more complex than the simplistic concept of punishment and reward. We recognize that karma facilitates our spiritual journey, the law of harmony that moves us toward oneness with our higher selves and thus with all beings. Judge writes, to the worldly man, karma is a stern nemesis. To the spiritual man, karma unfolds itself in harmony with its with his highest aspirations. In Aphorisms on Karma, Judge tells us that karma is an undeviating and unerring tendency in the universe to restore equilibrium, and it operates incessantly. Along those same lines, Geoffrey Farthing, an English theosophist, tells us the whole purpose of life, of living, is growth and development through experience. And writing through the pseudonym of William Brehan, Judge tells us strength comes only through trial and exercise. We know that experiences in physical manifestation and their karmic reactions are what move us toward our goal of unity with all, especially if those experiences are rooted in self-abnegation. In a book of quotations, Judge reminds us of the importance of working for the sake of others rather than for the sake of self, saying, "Let us, at the very outset, wash out of our souls all desire for reward, all hope that we may attain. For so long as we thus hope and desire, we shall be separated from the self." Karma and altruism are intrinsically integrated into the path upon which we find ourselves. We find that karma and altruism provide the ethical dimension for our journey on the spiritual path. So we have come full circle in a very short period of time. As students of the ageless wisdom, there is no need to spend time reviewing altruism and karma in great detail. You all are tremendous students and have studied this in more detail than we could go into in a brief presentation. But we can sum it up as this: creative altruism is the inseparable intermingling of self-sacrifice for the benefit of all living beings through our thoughts, feelings, and actions. It is the spiritual will that drives us on the path of self-development through the harmony of karmic balancing toward ultimate unity with the all. Now, of course, we're not finished. No theosophical meeting ends that quickly, or talk. But what we've talked about already is going to provide the basis for our conversation as we go forward. Practically speaking, and we need to be practical, we have to do in this physical realm in which we find ourselves. How do we incorporate altruistic actions into our physical daily lives? Well, we already know many of those ways from our studies. We know the importance of some of these ways, including being aware of the kama manasic tornado that sometimes roars through our lives and knocks us off balance, and the need to control that. We know how important it is to be aware of the thoughts and energy that we send out into the world, and the need to maintain vibrations of the highest order. We know how important meditation is and how it can impact us as well as all beings. And we also know how important it is to, in whatever way possible, work for social justice. But there are a few ways that I think maybe we don't really think about too often. And I'd like to touch on those briefly. So we're going to start off with the story, of course. I think we're all familiar with the story of HPB, who traded in her first class steamer ticket for steerage tickets for herself and a mother and children who were swindled out of their tickets. Quite a sacrifice on HPB's part to not travel first class, but to travel in steerage with this little family. Clearly, it's an example of altruism and compassion. Sometimes, however, language can cause problems for us. When we get to the point where we're just thinking our thoughts to each other, maybe it will be easier. I don't know. Thoughts are still words. Language can cause tremendous difficulties. We may think that HPB felt sympathy or empathy for the little family because many people confuse the words compassion, empathy, and sympathy, thinking that they're synonyms, but they're not, especially at their deepest level. It is important for us as students of the ageless wisdom, for students who know the power of words and thoughts, to be aware of these differences when we interact with others. So let's look briefly at this chart. So when we feel sympathy for someone, we feel pity or sorrow for their misfortune. And we may think to ourselves, oh, I'm so sorry that you're on the street and begging for food. When we feel sympathy for someone like that, what we are doing actually is disconnecting or separating ourselves from that person. We're sending them thoughts of sorrow. I'm sure they have plenty of thoughts of sorrow and sadness themselves without us adding to them. When we have empathy, we have the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. We connect with that person. But it's inert. There's no action involved there. We're just kind of sharing those feelings. Sometimes it can cause some impulsive actions. And certainly it can be very draining on us if we're not aware of taking on that person's energy or sending our energy to that person and thus losing our own. When we are compassionate, as HPB was with the tickets, we are consciously aware of the distress of another person. And we consciously want to alleviate that distress if we can. We join with the person, we're active, we do something. It's deliberate. Our actions are deliberate. We're not taking on their sadness. Okay? We're not sending thoughts out to stay away from me. I'm sorry for you. Don't come near me. Compassion is regenerating for us and for the individual with whom we feel compassion. When we encounter another person who is suffering, struggling, or in pain, we rely on our theosophical teachings to support the way in which we work to alleviate that suffering. We know, on the one hand, that the person is in pain, and we want to alleviate that suffering. On the other hand, we also know that overcoming obstacles is part of our spiritual pilgrimage, and that in some way, obstacle maybe has been a choice for this lifetime. So how do we bring these two seemingly separate perspectives together? We offer a compassionate response. We join with the other individual, recognizing and understanding their struggles. We do this consciously from a universal perspective. When we look back at the story of HPB, we recognize she didn't feel sorry for the little family. She didn't sit and cry with the mother. She didn't take on their suffering or act impulsively. Rather, she looked at the situation. She knew she could do something about it. She made a conscious and deliberate decision to help. And then she moved forward. It may feel like we're splitting hairs in this discussion, but I think if we spend some time thinking about the energy that's sent out, when we use these three words, when we act in these three different ways, I think it will provide us with an additional way to incorporate altruism into our daily lives. Excuse me. How often do we feel sympathy or empathy for another person rather than compassion? Do we feel sorry for someone? I think I'm sorry. Do we feel sorry for them? And again, what type of vibrations are we sending to them? Do we take on their suffering? Is our energy connecting into theirs so that we're taking it into ourselves, which really doesn't help anyone? Or are we looking at it consciously from a universal perspective and then taking action if possible? Just some rhetorical questions, maybe, to contemplate. Well, it may be useful to look at another way in which we use words in terms of helping others and alleviating suffering and pain. Diana Dunningham-Chapotin, a French theosophist, cites an article in The Service of Life by an author named Rachel Naomi Remen. It was published a long time ago in the 1996 issue of Noetic Sciences Review. According to Chapotin, Remen distinguishes between fixing, helping, and serving. Fixing is a form of judgment. To fix a person is to see them as broken rather than as inherently whole and perfect. I had never really thought about it like that until I read this, but it makes so much sense. Let me fix this problem for my kids. Let me handle this situation for that person. Let me fix this. Helping, a little better, but it's based on inequality. When we help someone, we're using our strength in place of what we perceive as the lesser strength of those we are helping. Diminishes their self-esteem and really incurs a debt. What our goal is to serve. Serving is mutual. We don't serve with our strength. We serve with ourselves. Service rests on the basic premise that the nature of life is sacred. When we see life as weak, we fix. When we see life as unequal, when we see ourselves as the stronger person, we help. But when we serve, we see life as whole. And isn't that what we are? All beings are whole at their core. And if we see people in that way, that is the energy that we are sending to them. Have you ever thought about it like this? The words are sometimes used interchangeably, but they have such different meanings. These discussions, sympathy, empathy, compassion, and then fixing, helping, serving, they're simple, probably things we haven't really thought about, but simple. And they are simple ways to implement altruistic actions, thoughts, language into our daily lives. They provide us with ways in which we can deepen our awareness, both of ourselves and of others. There's one more way to talk about altruism as something that we can do here on this physical plane of existence. We can participate in self-compassion. We don't talk about self-compassion very often when we, as students of the ageless wisdom, but it's an important component on our path, and it's an important one for us to discuss. So Brene Brown, who you may have heard of, she's pretty amazing, not a theosophist, but an educator and a researcher. She tells us authenticity is the daily practice of letting go who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. Choosing authenticity means cultivating the courage to be imperfect, to set boundaries, and to allow ourselves to be vulnerable. Exercising the compassion that comes from knowing that we are all made of strength and struggle, and nurturing the connection and sense of belonging that can only happen when we believe that we are enough. As human beings, and I'll address those of us who are working so hard to try to walk the spiritual path. Sometimes we may wear a spiritual mask so that others may perceive us as being deep students or wonderful meditators or actively spiritual in all of our behaviors. We're not. We're not. When we wear a mask, we are not being compassionate with ourselves. In many respects, we wear a mask when we feel that we aren't enough. As Brene Brown says, instead of being compassionate to ourselves, we are judging ourselves and judging ourselves very harshly. It takes a great deal of courage to be authentic, to let go of the mask, to let go of the way we think we are supposed to be. When we allow ourselves to be seen without any pretenses, without a mask, we act in accordance with the physical human experience that is summed up by Brown's comment that we are all made of strength and struggle. This recognition and the ensuing action is part of our spiritual journey, isn't it? Seems to me like it is. Thich Nhat Hanh says, to be beautiful means to be yourself. You don't need to be accepted by others. You need to accept yourself. Therefore, the first step, it seems to me, in compassion and authenticity is self-acceptance. As seekers for the ageless wisdom, one of the questions we ask is, who am I? I particularly love the quote by Teilhard de Chardin. We're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. According to the theosophical literature, this is a beautiful description of who we are. rays of the divine consciousness made manifest in the physical world. We are here to learn, to grow, and to spiritually evolve. Our life in the physical world has often been described as a classroom. Whoa, sorry. If we use this analogy, we can consider the fact that every student in the classroom is unique. Each student learns differently and at a different pace. When we look at the work that happens in a classroom, we realize that no one makes 100% on every test or every assignment. Remember back to those school days? No one makes 100%. There is no perfection. As adults, looking at students in a classroom, do we get upset because someone has failed the test or done poorly on an assignment? I hope not. Hopefully, we realize that the student failed or did poorly because he or she has not yet grasped the material and needs additional work in a particular area. Needing additional work in a particular area does not make the student less valuable or important. Very quick story. Years ago, I was a high school teacher, taught English, and I taught a group of students who really were at risk of dropping out of school. One of the boys in one of my classes spent his full hour in my classroom either sleeping or completely disrupting the class. I could not get anything done if he was not sleeping. Finally, I took him outside of the room and I said, "What is going on with you? What's happening?" And after some conversation, it became clear that this young man could not read very well and could not write very well. And I was asking these students to write a 5-paragraph essay. He could not. He could not do it. So he and I agreed that I would accept a 3-sentence paragraph from him, and I would help him with that. So we went back in, he quit sleeping, he quit disrupting the classroom, and with a little bit of help, and after a little bit of time, he was able to write that 3-sentence paragraph. It was amazing, amazing. So how do we feel about him? I'm guessing our hearts reach out to him, don't they? We have compassion for his behaviors and understand what may be seen as his failures. And we cheer for him when he writes that 3-sentence paragraph. Can we see ourselves like this? As important and as valuable as every other being, even when we make mistakes, when we fail a test or do poorly on an assignment, so to speak. Self-compassion is accepting ourselves as imperfect beings who are doing their best to walk the spiritual path. Being honest with ourselves and not trying to appear perfect to others is a part of being compassionate with ourselves. Back to Brené Brown, who says, "To be authentic, we must cultivate the courage to be imperfect and vulnerable. We have to believe that we are fundamentally worthy of love and acceptance, just as we are." And we are. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Have you ever wondered why you were born at this particular time in history? Have you ever wondered why you were born at this particular location in the world? Or what is your role in the world today? Well, there must be a reason that we are here now and in this location instead of in some other part of the world, instead of at some other time in history. We must have a role in today's world. Now, clearly, whatever that role is, it's obvious that we have to implement altruism in whatever way we can. Our world needs the ageless wisdom teachings today as much as it ever has. Our world needs us to be altruistic in every possible way that we can. We are pinpricks of light in a world that is filled with darkness. And as students of the ageless wisdom, we have a responsibility to shine as brightly as we possibly can. We are here today, I believe, to make a difference in the world in whatever way we can. James Perkins, former president of the Theosophical Society in America, ADYAR, writes, "Tomorrow's world will inevitably grow out of today's acts." Our actions, and we know this, create tomorrow's world. Our creative altruism, the compassion that emanates from our spiritual will, makes a difference in our own lives and in the consciousness of all beings. It is the path we have chosen for ourselves, and we have self-consciously chosen that path. No one has chosen it for us. We have chosen it. Let's end with a quote from HPB. William Judge read this message to the third annual convention of the American Convention in 1889. She wrote, "There is no happiness for one who is ever thinking of self and forgetting all other selves. The universe groans under the weight of such action," karma, "and none other than self-sacrificial karma relieves it. Do as the gods, when incarnated, do. Feel yourselves the vehicles of the whole humanity, mankind as part of yourselves, and act accordingly." I am so grateful to all of you for being able to spend a little bit of time with you. Thank you.
Okay, well, Barbara, thank you. Thank you.
Thank
First,
you.
let me say greetings. Second,
Greetings.
blessings. And third, thank you for this wonderful presentation. It's covered everything that's included in the three fundamentals and the SD. So I don't want to go into any of the particulars, but I do love your emphasis on the importance of understanding words. There's so much miscommunication in the world today that if we just spent a little bit more time listening and understanding, that compassion would be a natural reflex. So let's just open it up. Questions for our speaker, Miss Barbara, this evening.
And I'll
comments?
just say questions are fine, but I don't have any answers.
Great. Great. Okay. And you guys know I can always run my mouth. Good. Maluka.
Hi again. Yeah, it was quite lovely. And Eugene is right. He said, I agree. This is a very good time to listen to something so beautiful. Um, I came across, this is very interesting, a fortune cookie, and the fortune cookie said, we find comfort among those who we agree with, growth among those who, but growth among those who don't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a test in here. That's when we find seems to be. What do you think about that?
I love that. That is so beautiful. When the first that you talked about, that we find comfort with people who agree with us, that's called confirmation bias in some respects. I'm going to talk to these people over here because I know they agree with me, but I don't want to talk with you guys over there because I don't want to have to defend anything I think.
Mm-hmm.
But when we start to have conversations, courteous communication with one another, we learn and we grow. We learn and we grow. I think many have forgotten how to have courteous communication.
Yeah.
And courteous disagreements.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all about having other people have other perspectives because that's how I learn. So
I mean, it's a, to your point, it's we live in a relative universe. And so there are no absolute rights or wrongs, but different points of view, as you're suggesting. And if we have sympathy and empathy and compassion and understanding, and we're listening, and we're not trying to fix people, and all of the other things that you mentioned, it's a beautiful exchange. And that's just a natural flow of the whole process. So, you've got all of the solutions in there, although you say you have no answers.
I have lots of thoughts.
Yes, Aaron.
Well, I'm almost apologize for bringing up this example, but Eugene did mention definitions and also perspectives. I remember seeing a documentary recently on Coptic Christians in Egypt being blown up by fundamentalist religious people, and they were doing it in the name of altruism and selflessness, totally believing that what they were doing was for the greater good and the greater whole and so on. So in some ways, we can almost use the same argument, compassion for others and so on. But what would be your take on that? Because it has bothered me a little.
I think people use words and interpret words very differently. And fanatical individuals can take a word and use it to support their belief system and act on that. And I disagree that is altruistic in any way, shape, or form. But I think it's miscommunication, misinterpretation, and use of words to support one's belief.
Mm-hmm.
Touche. Your point is right to the heart of the issue, and it's just a coincidence. We were walking around today in our headset as usual, and we said, why doesn't someone write a book, Stop Blaming It on God? We're not doing it for God. We're not fighting the war for God. We're not hating this one for God. We're not doing it for any real fundamentals. But as you're suggesting, to justify ideologies that really are driven by the opposite of what you spoke about tonight, in terms of we need to help as opposed to we need to serve.
Exactly.
We need to fix the way they think and the way they act as opposed to serve. So
Yes.
again, your points are head on, you know. So thank you for that.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, Maluka. Yes.
Just to follow up with what Aaron just said, I was listening to this movie, Romero was done by Raul Julia, and this person from the guerrillas was saying, but we need to defend ourselves. We have to defend ourselves. And he said, no, you are attacking, you know.
Yeah. So this is maybe a silly story, but when my children were little, and it was just before Christmas one year, I heard noises in my living room. And I thought, someone's broken into my house and they're stealing the presents that are under the Christmas tree.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, what am I going to do? Well, I thought, I'm going to let them know that somebody's awake in the house. So I got up and walked into the bathroom and flushed the toilet. And then I went and got back in bed. Because, and people said, well, don't you have a gun? Wouldn't you use a gun to protect yourself? No, I am not going to shoot another human being. I'm not going to do that. That is not what I do. I think that when we attack others, we're attacking ourselves, because we go back to that whole, we're all one. And what am I defending myself again? If I die, I'm coming back. They're not getting rid of me. So, and not everybody, of course, agrees with me, which is fine. That's just my own personal perspective.
Mm-hmm. And again, that perspective is to the point. I think Jesus Christ said that what you do to the least of them, you do to me. And so again, it's right in line with that. Let's serve, and if everyone is serving, there's nothing that gets left undone.
Exactly.
Yes, Shobha.
Before Shobha starts, real quickly, I should finish that story and say that no one broke into my house. It was the cat trying to get into the presents. So my apologies.
Thank goodness she didn't flush the cat.
That's right. That's right. Shobha, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's fine. Thank you, Barbara. I truly like the idea of how words are so essential, how we understand things when you talked about fixing versus serving, etc. I always think of the word power. It's very relevant today. What is true power? And I love the way the light on the path says that the only power, and this is about a disciple, the only power that a disciple shall covet is to appear as nothing in the eyes of men. Now, how would we even understand it today? Because the way power is so very different from that.
Yes.
So words like power, words like mercy, words like humility have been turned on their heads.
Yes. And it hurts, doesn't it, to see that happen? Because we know how that plays into the misunderstanding and the misuse of words. It's humility does not seem to be a character trait that many people want to have. It just hurts. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
And perhaps to that same point, Shobha, it brings to mind the art of invisibility. And when the disciple is seeking to not be observed, be the least of all, as the Tao Te King says, those who would lead must serve.
Right.
And they're underneath the foot of everyone that would walk on them because they're supporting that. And it brings to the front that true power is never exerted. And it's never shown by force, nor by coercion. It is something that's felt that everyone automatically aligns with because they inherently recognize it to be right.
Mm.
And perhaps that goes with that, again, service and that compassion in terms of that one life.
Right.
You know.
To just as a corollary or as a footnote, I just wanted to add that the 12-step program in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, talks very much about humility.
Yeah.
Humility, mercy, and even power, true power, in a very, very beautiful way.
Mm.
Thank you both. What
Ah,
wonderful perspectives, thoughts.
thank you.
Thank you.
You're the igniter. Other comments and questions? We've still got time here. Yes, Maluka.
I just want to follow up with what Barbara said, because Gandhi say, "An eye for an eye made the whole world blind." You know, and I think I wish we apply in these moments too.
Mm. And so let's. Oh no, we've got another question, Laura.
Oh, I wonder with the serving those who um, don't hold the same ideas that we hold, that maybe are not altruistic at all, who have their own understanding and their ideas, and wondering how do we best serve them? You know, because we live with some, we interact with them, we work with alongside of. So how do we serve those that we don't necessarily agree with?
Such a relevant question in today's world. I think that when you were talking, we could certainly go the political discussion, but we try to keep political discussions out of theosophical meetings. So this may be a little on the edge of that. My oldest son, who I love dearly, of course, he and his wife are what would probably be considered by most of us as born-again Christians.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to him one day and said, do the people, at your church, would they think I'm going to hell? And he said, oh, absolutely. But I don't. And I said, good, I don't either.
Mm-hmm.
And, from my perspective, how do I serve this human being who I love dearly in the best way possible? And I think there are two things that jump into my mind. One is to give him the opportunity to walk his own path without making him walk mine, and to love him through that and accept him through walking his own path. And the other way, I think, if we think of the other, whoever the other is, as a ray of the divine, as we all are, as the Mahatmas are, how would I serve the Mahatma?
Mm.
To me, it would be very hard, but that's how I would do that. I mean, I would serve the Mahatma in whatever way I could. Does that help, Laura? Does that?
Yes, thank you, Barbara. I think that one of the things that really helped in that is when you gave the example from your personal experience, is that don't assume that because they belong to a certain kind of group, that they think everything along the lines of the group. We still have to see them as individual pilgrims on a journey and not necessarily the organization that they belong to. So thank you. It was a great answer.
We are all at different points on this path. And I think of a mountain, going up a mountain with the switchbacks. And I wonder, how often I've been on a switchback, maybe regressing, to a different perspective than maybe I have right now, or maybe we'll have in the future. It really makes us, I think, it gives us the responsibility of being really open and welcoming. I will tell you that my 5-year-old granddaughter, this son's daughter, said to me while we were driving in the car, of course, she said, May, I know that there's space because that's where the stars are, but where is heaven up there? And I said, oh, I think you need to talk to your parents about that.
Oh gosh. Again, but it's I had several thoughts when you were when Laura was asking the question and you answered it, because I was thinking to myself, but you did help the Mahatma when you told him to write 3 lines instead of 3 paragraphs or 5 paragraphs.
Yes.
The Mahatma in each person.
Yes.
And similar, Krishna says, in whatever way anyone seeks me, in that way do I, in essence, respond. And so I often think about these same issues, whether it's political, whether it's social, whether it's religious. And if we often got rid of the words, as you suggested in your talk, and simply shared ideas, love, compassion, helping, serving, and all of that, we would find, as you said, common ground, common communication. And that would be a real exchange. And then if we wanted to have fun, we would then say, well, I'm a theosophist and you're a Christian. So what happens? And it would be such a serious joke because you would probably see the change. But the interesting part of the experiment would be they're not responding to the truth. They're responding to the labels. So superficial. And so I often think again about some of the political stuff and, the person that wants to clean all of the bad people off the street. And I say to myself, would ever I want all of the negativity off the street? It would be nice, but there could be other ways to do it. And so, do we ever want to, are you pro-life? Are you not pro-life? Well, does anyone really want to see a baby die? No. And so there are so many things that we have in common, but the way we express them and the way we decide to argue about them make it ridiculous. And so if we could just get back to simplicities and learn how to share, as you suggest, it would be so much easier. I know that's not a name, but Podium. That must be you, Jonathan. You are muted. Can Truth unmute you, or? I guess he'll be right back.
He's going to move to another computer, I think.
He's somewhere down. He should be somewhere down there. He's usually in 2 places at one. Either he's a doppelganger or he clones himself. One of the 2.
Okay, I'm back.
Power of the theosophist.
It should work now. My question had to do. I was wondering if maybe Barbara could take us into the mind of HPV at that critical. Yeah, right. But at that critical moment of action that you described in the story about it was the steerage tickets versus the first class tickets. So I'm just, for example, I'm thinking she could have bought lesser tickets in the beginning and thinking, oh, well, why would I want to take the best tickets? So she got the first class tickets. That's interesting. And then, but then she had room to maneuver, didn't she? Because she had something there. I'm just thinking of that, what do you call it? The proverbial thing about if you're in an airplane crash, you grab the oxygen mask, you put it on, that way you can help people, that kind of thing. But there's that, and also, yeah, I wonder if you could just kind of explore that kind of thought process of like, what could I do or something. Anyway, I'll leave it to you guys.
I'm, I can't even imagine what the mind of HPB would have been like. Probably more than I could ever imagine, and maybe even frightening to me a bit. But I think she was given that first class steerage ticket. I don't think she ever had a great deal of money.
Mm-hmm.
So I think someone probably bought it for her and gave it to her because she should travel first class.
That makes sense. Okay.
My guess would be that her immediate, obviously I don't know. But look at this woman. She was swindled out of her tickets. I have a ticket that could pay for all of us to go. Maybe that's what we need to do. She didn't say, "Oh, this is your karma. You're just stuck here. Let's do something about this." People's karma is, and it goes back to that. And Judge has a lot to say about helping people, regardless of their karma. That it is our, and of course I'm paraphrasing because I never remember quotes, but about helping people. If we have the opportunity to help, to serve, then it is our responsibility to do so, regardless of what their karma is. Maybe their karma placed us in that role. Maybe our karma placed us in that place so that we just don't know. But we do know that if it's possible for us to serve, then we do. I'm not sure that really answers your question, Jonathan.
No, it's very, very helpful.
Great. Thank you much. And then, Laura, your hand's up.
Well, I wonder if we think at all in those moments, or if it's something that comes directly from the heart. That we're going along in our daily lives, whether it's grocery shopping or whatever it is we're doing, getting on a boat or an airplane, and we see someone in need, and our heart reaches out. And it's, if we let the mind get involved, it might come up with all kinds of reasons, like was mentioned. Oh, it's not my duty, it's their karma, and all those things might enter in. But if we can act from the heart, which is, I think, maybe, and we've done it all, not just HPB, we've all had moments where we acted from the heart position without the mind getting involved.
Beautiful, thank you. And Jitendra gave a quote from Kabir in the
chat.
In the chat, thank you.
Do you want to read that, Barbara?
Yeah, right hand gives, left hand should not know. That's real altruistic action. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
So we can translate that when the true spiritual one life gives, personality should not know.
Exactly. Because the personality should say, "I don't want to be in steerage. That's uncomfortable."
Well, indeed. There's another one here, I guess, from Sean, and I guess it was in regards to one of the quotes. That last quote was so inspiring and empowering. Felt it. To realize its inner meaning and experience such a perception is a universal proof that HPB practiced it, and Mr. Judge knew and selflessly shared it with all who were willing to listen and to choose to prove its validity. And I guess that says a lot. And the key words, all who were willing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Other queries, comments? Yes, Maluka?
Well, it's been said that gold is tested by fire. You know,
Mm-hmm.
gold, we test it all the time. So we have to see how much made of gold we are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And again, perhaps that goes to the point, speaking of Kabir, but some of the other, let's say some of the Sufis that beg to be crushed so that the essence of their being can exude. And, that would be like the personality just begging for that divine aroma to be present in the world for the benefit of all. True empathic service and empathic compassion. Yes, Leslie, for Barbara?
Yes, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, good. I have never spoken before. I've been here a few times and I really enjoy it. When I went to, after I retired, I went to religious school. And one thing that I've taken with me and think about often is the what they call the sin of omission. And so, not that I think it's a sin particularly. I'm not sure what sin means in this particular way, but I do know that I feel like we're all compelled to do certain things. And I don't think you could, whether you're a theosophist or whatever you are, it does come from the heart. It comes from when you see an opening, you feel compelled to fill the opening. And of course we sort of judge that, how far am I going to go down this rabbit hole or something like that. But I feel that if you feel the opening, then that's a signal that you need to think about doing a direct deed. Mhm. And don't let it go by.
Barbara?
It just keeps, what we keep hearing is it's all about living from the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Living from the heart, and not the emotional heart, not the astral heart perspective, but the higher aspect of the heart that is part of our higher selves, and allowing that to flow through us, because then there's no concern of the personality getting into it, because it's not of the personality, it's of the higher self. So those thoughts of, I don't want to be in steerage because it's not comfortable, never even comes into it. It is that higher love that is beyond anything that we really, I think, for the most part, understand.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And again, to that point, if we kept the mind out of it and just experienced fully the feeling, we would recognize that we all have many of the same feelings. Love feels, pain feels, hurt feels, hunger feels, death feels, grief feels. So if we lived in true feeling, we would again recognize that one life, because I'm sure we respond very, very similarly when we are in the moment of the experience.
Yeah.
Jonathan, you're at the podium. Is that the time limit?
Yeah,
or?
sorry to be the Grim Reaper. Well, why don't you take another question or something, and then kind of wrap it up? It's a wonderful. I mean, this would actually be a wonderful note to end on. So it's a beautiful heart moment right now. So.
Well, if you want to hear a joke, you could say that if you're the Grim Reaper, St. John the Baptist said, "You didn't come to kill me; you came to free me."
Okay. Well, there you go. All right. Amen.
But yes, any last comments or questions for Barbara?
Just thank you. Thank you very much, Barbara.
Indeed. From the heart. Thank you. Indeed. Okay. Thank you, Jonathan, and everyone for being present and contributing. We'll look to see you again, Barb.
I'll be back.
Okay.
All righty.
You heard the lady. Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Bye,
Take
y'all.
care.
Thank
Bye-bye
you
now.
so much.
Okay.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.